That's one of my favorite songs. Welcome back to the Stockwell Eldridge Show every Sunday, 10 a.m. here on AM 1280 The Patriot. I'm Jason Stockwell with Remax Results.
And I'm Dawn Eldridge with Remax Results.
And we have Stephanie Havel with Wells Fargo here.
Good morning.
And Heather Thomas with Wine Women and whatnot. And this has been one of the most interesting shows. So if you get if you missed the first couple segments or if you're just joining us, check it out on Facebook or on YouTube. And we're having a lot of fun and learning a little bit about each other, which is great, which is always fun and relaxing, especially in this day and age when everybody's stressed. I talked about it when I was on before, how busy people are, how stressed they are, how short-tempered people can be now. Mm-hmm. And it just seems like everybody's on edge, even though we have things are going good. You know, I mean, the economy's good. People have jobs. They're working.
Pokemon's on the go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
No, I'm sorry. I shouldn't even brought that up.
My kids saw something on that.
I don't even know what it is. I don't even know what it is. And my kids are taking Katie's phone and they're like going crazy with it.
Yeah,
they're
it's
4 and 5 years
people
old.
Are walking into walls and driving. Next thing you know, people are going to be shooting people over the Pokemon. So.
Brilliant by whoever created this Pokemon
it's more
thing,
downloaded than Tinder and Twitter and
it was 20
everything
years
else.
Ago. It's been 20 years it's been going on at least. My kids
it is
are watching.
fun. You know what? I think the biggest thing is they said it's getting people out, like getting kids out of the house. So even though they're on a phone app or whatever, they're getting out. Like people are saying, like they wear their, Fitbits and how many more steps they're taking now. Doing going out and trying to find these Pokemons and stuff like that. So instead of kids sitting in the house, they're actually getting outside and. Because it's an app, I just was hearing about it's an app on your phone, and then you find it, and you got to walk over to try to find it. So it's making more people.
You try to find someone's hid something of the Pokemon, or okay,
yeah,
it's clearly a luxury for when things are going well. People are doing because we have time and energy to do stuff like that. But anyway, no, I'm not into it really, but my kids loving it, and they're doing it, but. A lot of talk lately, too, about people that want to buy. I don't know if, Stephanie, I wanted to ask you about this and what your experience is at Wells Fargo, if you're hearing from people about this, where they're wanting to buy or they're maybe even not even inquiring to buy directly, but because they're afraid. It said this article here says that a lot of people are afraid because they have so much student debt that they're afraid to even approach someone to see about mortgage possibilities.
Well, student loan debt is, it's there, and a lot of people have it, and unfortunately it does impact people from qualifying because we do have to account for those payments. You can't, back in the day, if your student loan was deferred, if you're still going to school, the loans were deferred, we could remove those from the qualifying ratios, but now lending guidelines require. So if you have student loan debt, regardless of when it comes due or regardless if you're in school or not, it has to be counted. And we're seeing parents who have co-signed for their kids' loans, kids' student loans or whatever, and that's showing up on their credit reports.
Oh, even as a co-sign?
Yeah, so moms and dads, who help their kids out. And
so they're either refinancing or maybe they're downsizing, selling, and then buying another home.
Right,
and
the kids are in college now, and they want to downsize now.
They've co-signed, wow.
Right. So there's ways we can, if we can prove that the kid's been making the payments and, things like that. So you can definitely talk to your loan officer about that. But, it just goes back to what I say all the time, though, is just come in. Just give me a call. You can find me on Facebook or stephaniehavel.com or Wells Fargo Resources. My website has tons of resources. There's calculators on there and all kinds of information. But just come in. It does not cost you anything. You can call or stop into Wells Fargo Bank, ask to talk with a loan officer, and we'll go through it with you. We don't charge you. We'll pull your credit. We can run through it with you. We have great resources. If you do have a lot of debt and you're not quite ready, excuse me, we can put have something called My Home Roadmap, and we'll get you on the path. And most of those people that get in that program, within 6 to 8 months, they're ready to buy. So,
so maybe if you're afraid of hearing a no, or you're thinking, oh my gosh, I have all this student loan debt, I'm not even going to bother, even though I think it'd be good to own a home. You're saying do it. If you hear a no, you're going to hear a no, but, which means, or a no.
Well, absolutely, but if you don't ask, you don't know, right?
Yeah.
And so,
I think some people are. That's what this article said. Is that people are afraid. They're just afraid. They don't even want to open the door, if you will.
We're really nice people. We really are. At least I am anyways. So call stephaniehavel.com and find me on the website on Wells Fargo. And like I said, there's a lot of resources on there. But and again, with their 3% down payment, you don't need a lot of money as well either. But these young kids are coming out of college. They're great jobs. They're making some really good money. And they're smart if they're living with mom and dad, they're paying down on that debt, or they don't have car loans and credit cards and everything else. So even though they have student loan debt, if that's all they have, if they've been living with mom and dad, they're going to be totally fine.
Yep.
So,
well, and if you check their credit, it doesn't affect their credit score anymore, correct?
Well, it's always,
some people worry that it's going to.
Yeah, there's always going to be an impact to your credit score anytime anybody pulls your credit. That's why you really don't need to go. Wells Fargo, we can be your one-stop shop because the credit report we pull is the same credit report any other lender is going to pull. And it's much better to come in and talk to somebody rather than trying to go online and find it because those aren't always accurate. But don't be afraid. That's what I would say. Just don't be afraid, absolutely. And, maybe, Heather, you can talk about, your experience. But it is important to get prepared because maybe you think you're not in the process, but then you're having some wine and whatnot and talking with some women. And next thing you know, Heather's talking about buying a house and they're thinking, well, gosh, if Heather can buy a house, why can't I buy a house?
I go to sellers and on appointments with sellers, and Dawn and I do every week, multiple times a week. And I tell the sellers, and this is what my understanding of how buyers work and how I operated, is that the buyers search out an area that they know they want or areas, and then they'll track, keep informed of what's going on, months, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 18 months before they actually pull the trigger and make a purchase. So when so as a seller, when your house comes on the market, those first buyers are the best because they've already been researching for quite a long time and they know right away whether it's a good opportunity and priced accordingly and marketed properly or not. And if you burn through those in the first month or so, now you're trying to either win them back by reducing price or enticing them back in, or create new buyer opportunities with people that may not be quite ready yet because they haven't been researching the area for so long. That's why that first impression, in all of, we talk about first impression in meeting people in business and jobs and in any thing, but in housing, it's the same thing when you're going to sell. So that's why when Heather told her story earlier, when she said, they sat down on a Monday and said, we're going to buy a house. That's not the normal thing, folks. I think there's a little more research or time involved anyway on it from scoping out areas, right?
Well, and knowing, and for that, knowing what payment you can afford, because people will say, well, I'm paying rent right now, so knowing, and same thing, we get a lot of people, if you're driving by a house and maybe you're not ready to buy yet, just call Wells Fargo and just say, hey, here's the house I'm looking at. It's $200,000. What would a payment be? Because then we can look at the taxes because it's going to vary depending on if you buy in Golden Valley. I live in Blaine, Edina. Property tax are going to be different. And whether you're buying a single family home or I live in a townhome, there's association dues. But know what those payments are, before, so you feel comfortable with it. So when you're out looking, if you're looking at $300,000 houses, but you can only afford a $1,200 payment, well, you need to rethink that, So
Heather, how was your...
That martini must have been good, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Very potent. No, we actually, Jason, what you said was very correct. We did look at, for the last year, neighborhoods. So we knew really where we wanted to be. And we had looked, we drove by. Street view is really important to us. So we had this rule, my husband and I, where we would look at a house, but you can't look at the inside of the house. You had to look at the street view first because because the homes are so beautiful and they're well staged, and then the photography is amazing, and you're like, oh my gosh, I love it. And then the next thing you know, you're butted up against Highway 100, and you're like, wait a minute, I didn't see that. And so that was our new rule. And so Monday night we decided we were going to buy a house, and Tuesday my husband said, come here, I found our home. And I said, no, you didn't. And he starts showing me the inside of the house. I said, you can't do that. That's against the rules.
Cardinal rule. Yeah.
And then I said, I'm going to fall in love with it, and it's going to be somewhere where I don't want to live. And so, no. And so it keeps going through, and I'm getting more excited, and then I'm getting angry, and I'm punching him. I'm like, no.
That's why he had a black eye.
Exactly.
I love it.
And so he's like, well, what if I told you it was only 3 miles from where we live? I'm like, oh. And then we called Craig, and that was it. Wednesday we saw it, and then Friday we put in an offer. And I mean, I walked into it.
So you were clearly ready, but I think that's a good tip, folks. If you're listening, if you're a buyer, we realtors, many of us are good at marketing. Whether you could, or we think we are, but the photos and the things that we do to lead into the property is to get you to like the property, have an emotional connection with the property. Usually, there's some emotional connection to exterior, but a lot of emotional connection on the interior of a home.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a very disciplined buyer like Heather and her husband were here, don't get to that point yet until you make sure you're comfortable with the outside of the property. That's a good tip. I've never heard anybody do that before, because I always try to, as an agent, we're trying to say, hey, let's go in, because inside is where it's at, usually for most properties. So that's cool. Cool story.
Thanks.
And curb appeal too, right? Is important. I mean,
you're pulling into it every day and leaving it every day, and you just want to be happy right when you pull into that driveway. So it's important.
That's awesome. So, thanks, Heather. We'll be back. I'm Jason Stockwell with RE/MAX Results.
And I'm Dawn Eldridge with RE/MAX Results.
Check us out on YouTube. Stay tuned.